So in 2006, Childline joined the NSPCC family, and we here have a scrapbook belonging to Esther Ranson, reflecting on her time and all her passionate work for the organisation.
Yeah, so this is Esther's scrapbook, which was produced on the 30th birthday of Childline, which would have been 2016, and we had a reception at Buckingham Palace, which was hosted by Sophie, who was then the Countess of Wessex and is now the Duchess of Edinburgh, and we had some people speak at that event whose lives had literally been saved by Childline, and that's another day in my time here which will stay with me forever. I mean, Esther, remarkable woman. This real drive to give every young person options and the chance to feel that there was someone who would be there to listen to them, whatever their worry or concern, and work through what they might want or need to do next. And in my mind, that is the fundamental first principle of child protection. If we can create an environment in which adults are alive to what young people might be thinking and feeling, and young people feel that they can talk to a safe adult, and if they're not sure, they've always got Childline, then that's a really great place for the NSPCC to be. And it feels to me, perfectly aligned, Childline in the NSPCC. Now, there have been moments, in my time here, especially in the early days, where people would look at one another. It's sometimes encouraged by Esther. Are you a Childline person or are you an NSPCC person? Whose side are you on? And so, although Childline moved into us in 2006, I wouldn't describe it as a kind of a merger, really. It was an organisation existing within an organisation. And there are some things which are hugely special and distinct about Childline, in my mind, even within the NSPCC. It's here by children and for children. It is playful, it is relevant, it is youthful, it is fronted by volunteers. It is here for all children. It is confidential. The confidentiality threshold for Childline is different from the rest of the NSPCC. We hold risk in this service, Childline, which is beyond what we would do in the wider NSPCC, in order to help give children a sense that things won't spiral out of control if they say something which they really fear the consequences of. Now, of course, we would never leave a child in danger or other children in danger, and we breach a very small number of calls and contacts. But that special nature of Childline matters a lot, and Esther was a great champion for that, and also an iconic figure. I've been with her out in the streets and seen people come up to her and say things like these people said at the Buckingham Palace reception. Esther, if it weren't for Childline, I wouldn't be here. You have no idea. And I think this is one of the magic things about Childline, but also must be one of the frustrations for the people who work within Childline. You never quite know what happens as a consequence of the listening that you do and the advice, the kind of empowerment, the options that you help a young person see that they have. So for me, that's really important. And one of the things I've done in the last 3 years or so is chair the Childline Advisory Board, which the NSPCC Board of Trustees have charged me with making sure that within the NSPCC strategy, the special culture of Childline is alive and thriving. And that's a lovely and really interesting group to chair. So we have members of staff with all sorts of functions at all sorts of levels in Childline, and we have volunteers from the various bases, and we come together and we reflect on how does the culture of Childline feel at the moment? Are we being the best we can for children? Where and how might we make the best difference that we can? And Childline is a national service, but its 12 bases, 13 now if you include the virtual base, have distinct qualities and attributes and relevance to their areas, but together they have to deliver this promise to be here 24/7 for any child with nowhere else to turn. Another big issue for Childline in the last 10 years has been, how do we make sure we're here when children need us and how children want to contact us? So the majority of calls and contacts to Childline now are through instant messaging. They're not through voice. So I think a lot of people still imagine if you went into a Childline counselling room, it would be like a call centre and there'd be all these noise and buzzing and conversations, but actually it's people quietly tapping away and engaging in these text conversations with one another. More and more young people can contact us later and later into the night. So we need to have a capacity to be able to respond to them when they need us. So we need more volunteers at the weekends, later into the evening. When Childline started, more of the contacts would have been from the call box at the end of the street on the way to school or on the way home from school. So how do we configure the service to support that? How do we make sure that we are able to counsel through text, which is slower than through voice, pick up the nuances of language in the written word, which you can do in a more straightforward fashion through tone of voice? How do we create web-based resources? So lots of young people now want to help one another, get onto the message boards, have moderated conversations, in a safe space about what they're thinking and feeling. And during the pandemic, there were some amazing examples of young people feeling desperately anxious and worried and lonely and concerned and contemplating, self-harm and suicidal thoughts and this sort of thing. And for other young people to be able to share that, it is okay, they do have options, they are special in and of themselves, and other people have been in this situation and this is what they would do. So, again, Childline, like NSPCC, has moved with the times from an overwhelmingly voice service to now a text and web based service, and no doubt it will iterate again. We've just been through another change program in Childline where we're looking to differentiate between young people who come to us time and time again and need a particular sort of support and potentially advocacy beyond Childline itself, and others who need someone to talk to about something more specific, perhaps more transactional and easier to resolve. So I think Childline is a super special service. Look into the future, I hope and expect we can position it in a way that many more of the young people who could benefit from non-judgmental advice will come through to the service. So we're doing a bit of an experiment at the moment with a couple of police forces up in the northwest, where when children find themselves in custody, it's made known to them that if they would like someone to talk to confidentially and in a non-judgmental fashion, Childline is here, and that's where you can have a private conversation. So I really like the idea of us reaching out to some of the spaces and places that young people who might not be thinking of Childline are present in, so that we can connect them up with a service which would be safe to them.